Hello and welcome to this month's webinar. My name's Tom Rowland and I'm Health Assured's Training Team Leader. This month we will be talking to you about what is burnout. Please feel free to pause, rewind or revisit this webinar as necessary to allow yourself a comfortable listening. In June 2019, the World Health Organization added burnout to their international classification of diseases, meaning that in 2020, which we're now in, it will be a globally recognized occupational phenomenon. With burnout now being recognised as this and an official workplace syndrome, there has never been a better time to educate ourselves on the subject. The word burnout itself makes you think of combustion or overheating, which is an apt description, because it leads to the sufferer being a shadow of their former self, unable to function as they did before. So in this webinar, we'll cover the basics of what burnout actually is and then look into the common signs and symptoms. And then ultimately, we'll be looking at how we can prevent burnout for ourselves and assist others who may have reached burnout. So what is burnout? Burnout is defined as a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion brought on by prolonged or repeated stress that has not been successfully managed. It's important to note that anyone can suffer from burnout regardless of occupation, gender, or age. There is a common misconception about burnout and can sometimes be generalised by people when they are experiencing stress. It's important to remember that stress is not a disorder, but burnout is. Burnout has some more severe consequences and symptoms than stress. Stress is something that's one of life's inevitables, and there are times where we cannot avoid this no matter how hard we try. And when managed correctly, stress is not harmful to us, but in some ways beneficial. Burnout occurs when we do not have ways to deal with our stress and we forget to take time for ourselves, relax, or practice self-care. Whilst anyone can suffer from burnout, as discussed on the previous slide, there are certain personality types that are naturally more susceptible and prone to burnout. There are many causes for burnout, however the most common is a person's attitude to their own performance at work as well as in everyday life. This attitude is generally setting high demands for yourself and a need to achieve them, as well as recognition from others. The three personality types that are found to be at increased risk of reaching burnout are perfectionists, those who think they need to give 150% every day of their life, work and projects that they do. People pleasers, those that are determined to satisfy the needs of others, ultimately forgetting about their own needs. Pessimists, or negative thinkers, generally assume the worst or lack self-belief within themselves. The constant negative talk to themselves can create increased levels of frustration, causing to work harder, and it becomes a vicious cycle with no gratification at the end. If you're watching this webinar and identify yourself with one of these, use this as self-reflection and take the top tips that you need to look after yourself in advance and avoid reaching burnout altogether. So now we understand what burnout is and who may be prone to this, let's look at what the common signs and symptoms of burnout are. As discussed earlier, there is a difference between burnout and stress, but sometimes it can be hard to know which one we're dealing with. Burnout tends to occur when these symptoms are prolonged. An example of the symptoms can be seen on this slide. For example, feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from your job, feelings of negativism or cynicism related to your job, reduced professional efficiency, trouble sleeping, are you unable to concentrate? They're some of the most common signs and symptoms, but there are other red flags which include there's no such thing as a good day. You've unexplained aches and pains. You've lost interest in all the things you used to enjoy. Do you feel helpless, trapped or alone? Do you find that nothing can lift your spirits? Are you at a loss of motivation? Isolating yourself from others? Do you feel constantly angry, frustrated or resentful? Sometimes, does the future just feel bleak? Warning signals are often ignored when it comes to burnout and by those affected, either because they don't notice them or because you don't want to notice them. The process is gradual. Take warning signs seriously, and if you notice even any of them, seek help. Now let's look at the ways that we can avoid reaching burnout. On this slide, you'll see 5 easy steps we can all take to look after ourselves and our overall well-being, avoiding reaching that state of burnout. Sleep. Insomnia is one of the symptoms of burnout, and when you don't sleep, your brain just simply doesn't function at its prime. Getting enough sleep is crucial to your health and happiness, so don't skimp on it or let work cut into those precious hours. Exercise. It may seem counterintuitive to leave work in order to work out, but exercise is crucial to your mental and physical health. Regular exercise reduces levels of stress, improves self-confidence, prevents cognitive decline, increases productivity, and improves memory. The satisfaction of knowing you're taking care of yourself and the improved energy that you'll get from getting up and getting moving, rather than sitting stationary at a desk, for example, all day, will help prevent the physical and emotional exhaustion that causes burnout. Laugh. Laughing relieves stress and has many positive short-term and long-term effects. Socialise. Spending time with people outside of work gives you a much needed emotional fulfillment. If you only socialise at work or make work your entire life, it'll leave you burnt out and emotionally detached from those people around you that you'd normally spend your days off with. Start learning to say no. Drawing boundaries is critical. Saying no or not today or sorry I can't, it never comes easy, but recognising when you may be stretched too far, you need to get your priorities straight, and calmly communicating these needs is an empowering weapon against burnout. Don't be hard on yourself. There's no one right way to prevent burnout. It usually takes time to develop some of these strategies or to try them out before they work out, or whatever's best for you and your lifestyle. It's not a one size fits all, but do try. Ultimately, get support. When you are overwhelmed or stressed, there can be a natural tendency to disconnect from people and isolate yourself. Speaking to the people you trust and who care about you can help you gain a fresh perspective. Now we know what burnout is and how we can avoid this in our daily lives, let's finish by looking at ways in which we can support someone else who may have reached burnout. The danger which often lures with burnout is that they get used to the negative spiral. It's often the case that people with burnout focus on negative things, meaning that you will not get the impression that they want to be positive when you're trying to make a conversation with them. What you could do, instead of giving advice, is to find things which they already do well already. For example, you can tell them how much of a go-getter they are. By naming their sources of strength, your conversation might become more positive and they might start looking at their own sources of strength. Tell them the things they do well, identify their achievements, tell them positive personality traits, discuss ultimately the good things. Ultimately, help yourself and others recognise that self-care is not selfish, it's essential. I'd like to thank you for watching this webinar on what is burnout. I hope you found this enjoyable and informative. If you need any support or have any questions about the topics raised, please feel free to use the support available through our portal and app. Alternatively, you may be able to contact our counselling and advice helpline, which is available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Thank you again for watching this webinar.